Welcome to Chinese History and Mythology.
Hello friends, welcome back. Welcome back to Chinese History and Mythology. Friends, let us continue the story from Chronicles of the Eastern Zhou states. After Su Qin and Zhang Yi said farewell to Guiguzi and left the mountain, their fates turned in completely different directions. Zhang Yi went to the state of Wei, while Su Qin returned to his hometown in Luoyang. At this time, Su Qin had been away from home for several years and had achieved nothing. He wanted to sell some family property and travel again to seek opportunities. But his mother, his sister-in-law, his wife, and even his younger brothers all opposed him together. His family mocked him coldly. Why not farm the land or do some business properly? What future can come from relying on empty talk? When you end up poor and miserable, do not regret it. Su Qin had no choice but to first try persuading King Xian of Zhou. But because he came from a humble background, the ministers excluded him. After more than a year, he still had not gained even the smallest official position. He returned home in shame, only to receive even colder treatment. His mother scolded him for being useless. His wife continued weaving and did not even step down from the loom to greet him. His sister-in-law refused to cook for him, saying there was no firewood. Seeing how the world treated him, Su Qin burst into tears. When a man is poor, even his relatives treat him like a stranger. When a man becomes wealthy, even strangers may become his relatives. All of this is my own fault. After calming himself, Su Qin took out the book Yin Fu Pian that Guiguzi had given him. From that day on, he shut himself inside and studied day and night. Whenever he felt sleepy, he stabbed his own thigh with a metal awl. Blood flowed, yet he did not stop studying. This became the famous story known as piercing the thigh with an awl. After 1 year, he finally understood the great trends of the world. Full of confidence, he said to his younger brothers, "Now if I travel among the states and persuade their rulers, gaining the position of a high minister will be as easy as turning my hand." His brothers were impressed by his knowledge and gathered money to support his journey. At first, Su Qin planned to go to Qin again.
But he remembered that the king of Qin had once refused to employ him, so he decided to do the opposite. He began to plan a great strategy known as the Vertical Alliance, which aimed to unite the 6 states against Qin. He first went to the state of Zhou. At that time, the powerful lord Feng Yang did not like him, so Su Qin moved on to the state of Yan. In Yan, he lived in poverty. Fortunately, he encountered Duke Wen of Yan during a royal outing. Su Qin knelt by the roadside and stopped the carriage to present a written petition. Duke Wen was deeply impressed by his talent. Not only did he give Su Qin carriages, horses, and gold, he also sent him to Zhou to promote the alliance plan. By this time, Lord Feng Yang had died, and Duke Su of Zhou treated Su Qin with great respect. Su Qin spoke passionately and explained that the total land and military strength of the 6 states far exceeded that of Qin. If they united, Qin would never dare to act recklessly. Duke Su of Zhou was delighted. He immediately appointed Su Qin as prime minister, granted him a grand residence and carriages, and appointed him as the chief coordinator of the alliance, sending him to negotiate with the other states. Just as Su Qin was preparing to depart, news arrived that the Qin general Gong Sunyan had defeated the Wei army and was preparing to attack Zhou. Su Qin was alarmed. If Zhou became frightened and decided to surrender land to Qin for peace, his alliance plan would collapse completely. In desperation, he thought of a plan. He remembered that his old classmate Zhang Yi was currently living in poverty in Wei, so he sent a trusted follower named Bai Cheng to Wei disguised as a merchant called Jia Sharon to find Zhang Yi. Now let us speak of Zhang Yi. Earlier he had been in the state of Chu and was falsely accused of stealing the famous He family jade belonging to Prime Minister Zhao Yang. He was beaten almost to death. After returning home, his wife complained about his misfortune. Zhang Yi asked only one question, "Is my tongue still there?" His wife laughed and said yes. Zhang Yi replied, "As long as my tongue remains, I still have the means to rise again." Later he returned to Wei. When he heard that Su Qin had gained great success in Zhou, he planned to go there and seek his help. At this moment, the merchant Jia Sharon appeared. He warmly welcomed Zhang Yi and escorted him to Zhou, arranging a place for him to stay. The next day, Zhang Yi went to visit Su Qin, but he was deliberately ignored for several days. When he finally met Su Qin, the situation was humiliating. Su Qin sat high above in the main hall, enjoying rich food and delicacies, while Zhang Yi was seated below and given only plain food. Su Qin even mocked him openly for his lack of ability. In the end, he simply tossed Zhang Yi a piece of gold and told him to leave. Zhang Yi felt unbearable humiliation and anger. He swore that one day he would take revenge on Su Qin. At that moment, Zha Shiren secretly encouraged him. If Zhao treats you this way, why not go to the powerful state of Qin? In the future, you could even defeat Zhao. Zhang Yi immediately agreed. Zha Shiren escorted him all the way to Qin, helped arrange introductions, and even bribed the attendants of the Qin king. Soon, Zhang Yi gained the favor of King Huiwen of Qin and was appointed as a guest minister. When Zhang Yi later wanted to thank Zha Shiren with generous gifts, Zha Shiren finally revealed the truth. All the money that supported you actually came from Prime Minister Su Qin. He feared that Qin might attack Zhao and destroy the alliance. He believed that only you could gain control in Qin. So he deliberately angered you and forced you to enter Qin. As long as you hold power and he remains Prime Minister, neither of you needs to suggest attacking Zhao. After hearing this, Zhang Yi was deeply moved. He promised that as long as Su Qin remained in office, he would never attack Zhao. With this concern removed, Su Qin continued his journey of persuasion. He visited the states of Han, Wei, Qi, and Qiu. He explained that relying on Qin would only lead to losing more land again and again until the states were destroyed. Only a united alliance could protect their survival. The rulers of these states were persuaded and agreed to join the alliance. Finally, Su Qin returned to Zhao with a magnificent procession of carriages. Along the road, the rulers of the states came out to welcome him. Even the son of heaven of Zhou sent people to clean the road in his honor. When Su Qin passed through his hometown of Luoyang, the relatives who once treated him with cold contempt were now kneeling beside the road, not even daring to raise their heads. Su Qin felt deep emotion. He rewarded his family generously and built a grand mansion in his hometown. In the 36th year of King Xian of Zhou, Su Qin gathered the rulers of Yan, Qi, Shu, Wei, Zhao, and Han at the Huanshui River. The 6 rulers swore an oath together by drinking blood. They formed a brotherhood alliance and agreed that if Qin attacked any one state, the other 5 would come to its rescue. Su Qin was chosen as the chief leader of the alliance. He carried the seals of prime minister from all 6 states, and his power reached the highest point. He truly stood below only the kings and above countless others. Because of this alliance, the powerful state of Qin did not dare to send troops beyond Hangu Pass for 15 years. After Su Qin successfully formed the alliance of the 6 states against Qin, he sent copies of the treaty to Qin. King Huiwen of Qin was greatly alarmed. The Prime Minister Gong Zunyan proposed launching an immediate attack on Zhao, the leader of the alliance, hoping that defeating Zhao would frighten the other states. But Zhang Yi wished to repay Su Qin for secretly helping him in the past. He advised against the attack. The 6 states have just formed their alliance, and their morale is strong. If Qin attacks Zhao now, the other 5 states will certainly come to its aid. Qin would then be surrounded. It would be better to first draw the nearby state of Wei to our side, and then form a marriage alliance with Yan. In this way, we can break the alliance from within. The king followed this plan. Qin returned some cities to Wei and formed a marriage alliance with Yan. When the king of Zhao saw this, he became furious and blamed Su Qin, saying that the alliance had already begun to fail. Su Qin felt uneasy and asked permission to travel to Yan to repair the situation. At this time, the new ruler of Yan, King Yi, had just come to the throne. Taking advantage of Yan's mourning period, the state of Qi seized 10 of its cities. Su Qin went to Qi and persuaded King Zhuan of Qi with his eloquence. If you keep these 10 cities, you will offend both Yan and Qin at the same time. The gain will not be worth the loss. It would be wiser to return the cities and win the goodwill of both states. Then you may even gain influence over the whole realm. King Zhuan was delighted and returned the cities. However, while Su Qin was in Yan, he became involved in a palace scandal. He secretly had an affair with the mother of King Yi of Yan. In order to protect himself, Su Qin proposed a plan. He asked to go to Qi as a double agent, pretending that he had offended Yan and fled there. In reality, he would secretly damage the government of Qi to benefit Yan. King Zhuan of Qi trusted him and gave him an important position. Su Qin then deliberately encouraged the king to build grand palaces, indulge in pleasures, and increase taxes. Soon the people were full of resentment.
At the same time, Zhang Yi noticed that Su Qin had left Zhou. He presented a plan to the king of Qin to destroy the alliance of the 6 states. First, he used a strategy of giving first and taking later. Qin pretended to return the city of Pyong to Wei and even sent hostages. This won the trust of the king of Wei. Zhang Yi then persuaded Wei to give land to Qin, and because of this success, he was appointed prime minister of Qin. After that, Zhang Yi targeted the state of Qiu. He knew that King Huai of Qiu loved profit. Zhang Yi promised that if Qiu would break its alliance with Qi, Qin would return 600 li of land in Shangyu. Ignoring the warnings of ministers such as Chen Zhen and Kuai Yuan, King Huai of Qiu was delighted. He announced the end of relations with Qi and sent envoys with Zhang Yi to Qin to receive the land. But when they arrived in Shanyang, Zhang Yi pretended that he had fallen from his horse and was injured. He refused to meet the envoys. After waiting 3 months, Zhang Yi finally spoke lightly. "I said 6 li of land from my own estate. When did I ever promise 600 li?" When King Huai learned that he had been deceived, he became furious. Ignoring Chen Zhen's advice to ally with Qi against Qin, he insisted on attacking Qin. The result was disaster. The armies of Qin and Qi attacked together. The Chu army was defeated at Danyang, losing 80,000 soldiers. The general Quogai was killed, and 600 li of land in Hanzhong were lost. King Huai was filled with regret. In his anger, he even offered to exchange the land of Chanzhong for the head of Zhang Yi. Now the story turns back to the state of Qi. The prime minister Tianying died, and his son Tianwen succeeded him. Tianwen later became famous as Lord Mengchang. When he was born on the 5th day of the 5th month, his father once wished to abandon him. But Tianwen showed great intelligence. He persuaded his father by saying that destiny is decided by heaven, not by the gate of birth. In the end, he inherited the noble title. Lord Mengchang welcomed talented men from everywhere. He accepted guests regardless of their background, even criminals. It was said that he had several thousand followers. He treated his guests with great sincerity. Once a guest suspected that he was given poorer food than others. Lord Mengchang personally brought out the dishes and compared them. The guest realized his mistake, felt deeply ashamed, and took his own life. Because of such stories, the fame of Lord Mengchang spread across the land. Later, the states of Han, Zhou, Wei, Yan, and Chu formed a coalition to attack Qin, and they chose King Huai of Chu as the leader. Lord Mengchang was forced to send troops from Qi, but he deliberately slowed his army's march and watched the struggle from a distance. In the end, the coalition armies gathered outside Hanghu Pass, each state secretly suspicious of the others. The Qin general Chu Liji cut off their supply lines, and the coalition army collapsed and retreated in defeat. The Qi army lost not a single soldier. Because of this, Lord Mengchang gained even greater favor from King Min of Qi. Meanwhile, Su Qin's secret activities in Qi eventually brought disaster upon him. The nobles of Qi were jealous of his power and hired assassins to kill him. Before dying, Su Qin offered one final plan. He told the king of Qi to hang his head in the marketplace and announced that he had been a spy for Yan, promising a reward for anyone who captured the assassin. Sure enough, the killer came forward hoping to claim the reward. He was immediately seized and executed. In this way, Su Qin took revenge even after death. After Su Qin died, his younger brother Su Dai continued to play a role in politics. Soon turmoil broke out in Yan. King Kuai of Yan listened to Su Dai and the corrupt minister Lu Maoshu. Imitating the ancient story of rulers giving up their thrones, he actually handed the throne to his prime minister Zizi and made himself a subject. This decision caused chaos. The Crown Prince Ping and the General Shi Bei rose in rebellion. The state of Yan fell into disorder and tens of thousands died. Taking advantage of the chaos, King Min of Qi sent the general Quang Zhang with a great army to attack Yan. Zizi and King Kuai were both killed, and the state of Yan was nearly destroyed. The people of Yan supported the Crown Prince Ping and placed him on the throne as King Zhou of Yan. King Zhou was determined to take revenge. He followed the advice of Guo, who suggested buying the bones of a fine horse with 1,000 pieces of gold, meaning that the king should show great respect for talent. He built the famous Golden Terrace to welcome worthy men. Talented figures such as Zhu Qin, Su Dai, and Zhu Yan came to serve him, and the strength of Yan slowly recovered. At this time, Qin saw that Qi had become too powerful. Qin once again employed Zhang Yi. Zhang Yi traveled to Chu and used the same old trick. By bribing the favored minister Jin Shang and others, he deceived King Huai of Chu once again. As a result, Chu became completely isolated and suffered repeated defeats in later wars. King Huai hated Zhang Yi deeply. He was even willing to trade land just to obtain Zhang Yi's head. A new and dangerous contest was about to begin.
After Zhang Yi tricked King Huai of Chu and took 600 li of land in Hangzhong, the king of Chu was furious. He sent a message to the king of Qin saying, "I do not want land in exchange. I only want one person, Zhang Yi." The ministers of Qin all said, "Trading one man for several hundred li of land is a great bargain." But King Huaiwen of Qin replied, "Zhang Yi is my right arm and left arm. I would rather give up the land than lose him." Unexpectedly, Zhang Yi stepped forward himself and said, "I am willing to go to Chu." The king of Qin worried and said, "The king of Chu hates you deeply. If you go there, you will surely die." But Zhang Yi answered calmly, "Your Majesty need not worry. I have my own way to escape." He continued, "The king of Chu's favorite consort, Zhang Su, is very jealous. In the past, a beautiful woman gained the king's favor. Zhang Su tricked her by saying the king disliked people covering their noses. The woman followed the advice. Then Jingxiu told the king that the woman covered her nose because she thought he smelled bad. As a result, the woman had her nose cut off." Zhang Yi added, "I have a good relationship with the king's favorite minister, Jin Shang. As long as I bribe him and use Dingxiu to whisper to the king will not dare to kill me." As soon as Zhang Yi arrived in Chu, he was indeed arrested and thrown into prison. Jin Shang went into the palace that night and said to Zhang Xiu, "My lady, your good days are about to end. The king of Qin plans to exchange Zhang Yi for beautiful women and land. When the Qin women arrive, will you still remain the king's favorite?" Zhang Xiu was shocked. In the middle of the night, she cried and said to King Huai of Chu, "If you kill Zhang Yi, Qin will surely send more troops for revenge. At that time, we may never see each other again. Besides, ministers serve their own rulers. What fault is it if Zhang Yi works for Qin? It would be better to treat him kindly and persuade him to work for Chu instead." King Huai was moved by her words. The next day, he released Zhang Yi and even treated him warmly. When Ku Yuan returned from a diplomatic mission to Qi and heard this news, he stamped his feet in anger and said, "Has your Majesty not been deceived by Zhang Yi enough already? If you release a tiger back to the mountains, there will surely be trouble later." Only then did King Huai regret his decision. He sent people to chase Zhang Yi, but Zhang Yi had already escaped back to Qin during the night. After returning to Qin, Zhang Yi was granted the title Lord Wuxing. With large sums of money, he traveled to persuade other states. He first went to Qi and said to King Min of Qi, "Now Qin and Chu are united by marriage. Han, Wei, and Zhao have already submitted. If Qi alone stands against Qin, once Qin gathers the other states and attacks Qi together, it will be too late for regret." The king of Qi became afraid and immediately agreed to establish friendly relations with Qin. Zhang Yi then went to Zhao and Yan, using the same mixture of threats and promises. One after another, the states turned toward Qin, and the alliance of the 6 states collapsed completely. But before Zhang Yi could return to Xianyang to report his success, King Huiwen of Qin suddenly died. The crown prince Dang ascended the throne as King Wu of Qin. King Wu had disliked Zhang Yi's clever schemes since childhood. After he became king, many ministers began to speak against Zhang Yi. Knowing disaster was near, Zhang Yi said to King Wu, "The king of Qi hates me the most. Wherever I go, he will attack. Please send me to Wei. When Qi attacks Wei, Your Majesty can take the opportunity to attack Han and open the route of the three rivers, reaching directly toward the Zhou royal domain. King Wu agreed and sent 30 war chariots to escort Zhang Yi to Daliang. The King of Wei appointed him as prime minister. Just as Zhang Yi expected, King Min of Qi planned to attack Wei. Zhang Yi sent a guest named Feng Shi to speak with the King of Qi. If your Majesty attacks Wei, you will fall into Zhang Yi's trap. He intentionally provoked conflict between Qi and Wei so that Qin can benefit. It would be better to remain still and let the King of Qin begin to suspect Zhang Yi. The King of Qi thought this made sense and withdrew his army. 1 year later, Zhang Yi died of illness in Wei. Now let us turn back to Qin. King Wu of Qin was tall and extremely strong. He loved wrestling with powerful men. He heard that there was a famous strong man in Qi named Meng Ben who could pull a bull's horns with his bare hands. The king spent a large amount of money to bring him to Qin and employed him together with the warriors Wu Hou and Ren Bai. King Wu once said to his ministers, "If I could open a route through the three rivers and go to Luoyang to see the 9 tripod cauldrons of the Zhou king, even death would leave me without regret." Gan Mao volunteered to attack the city of Yang in Han. Before leaving, he said to the king, "Once mother of Zheng Shen heard 3 different people say that her son had killed someone, and finally she believed it. I fear that your Majesty may listen to slander and abandon the campaign halfway." The king made a blood oath with him and placed the written pledge in a place called Zirang. Gan Mao surrounded Yang for 5 months but could not capture it. Chu Liji advised the king to withdraw the army. The king sent a message ordering Gan Mao to return. Gan Mao replied with only 2 words, "Zirang." The king suddenly remembered the oath. He sent 50,000 more soldiers and ordered Wu Hu to assist. In the end, the Qin army captured Yiyang. But while climbing the city wall, Wu Hu fell when the wall collapsed and broke his ribs, dying from his injuries. King Wu was overjoyed and immediately went to Luoyang with Ren Bai and Meng Ben. King Nan of Zhou welcomed him with full courtesy. King Wu entered the ancestral temple to see the 9 tripod cauldrons. 9 huge bronze cauldrons stood in a row, each weighing 30,000 jin. The names of the 9 regions were carved upon them. Pointing to the cauldron of Yangzhou, King Wu said, "This is the cauldron of Qin. I will take it back to Xianyang." He asked Meng Ben, "Can you lift this cauldron?" Meng Ben tightened his belt and used all his strength. He managed to lift the cauldron half a foot off the ground, but blood flowed from the corners of his eyes. King Wu laughed and said, "If you can lift it, how could I be weaker than you?" Renbi warned him, "Your Majesty's body is priceless. You should not risk such danger." But the king ignored him. He removed his jade belt, wrapped it around his arms, and shouted as he lifted the cauldron. Just as he tried to step forward, his strength failed. The cauldron fell and crushed his right foot, shattering the bone. That night, King Wu lay in bed bleeding heavily and died from the pain. He was only 23 years old. Chu Liji investigated the matter. Meng Ben was executed by being torn apart by chariots along with his entire clan. Ren Bai was rewarded for his earlier warning and was appointed governor of Hanzhong. Gan Mao feared punishment and fled to Wei, where he later died. King Wu had no sons, so his younger brother Ji became king. He was known as King Zhaoxiang of Qin. When he heard that the Crown Prince of Chu had been sent to Qi as a hostage, he suspected that Chu had betrayed Qin. He sent troops to attack Shu and wrote a letter to King Huai of Chu. "I wish to meet your Majesty at Wuguang. We can form an alliance face to face, and I will return the lands I have occupied." King Huai hesitated. Kuo Yuan warned him, "Qin is a state of wolves and tigers. If your Majesty goes, you will never return." The Prime Minister Zhao Ju also advised against the journey, but Jin Sheng and the king's younger son Zialan said, "Qin and Chu are bound by marriage. Their relationship is close. Refusing the invitation will only anger the king of Qin." Fearing a Qing invasion, King Huai finally agreed to go. He brought only Jin Shang with him. When he arrived at Wuguan, the gate stood wide open. The envoy said, "The king of Qin has been waiting inside for 3 days. Please enter the guest residence." As soon as they passed through the gate, a cannon sounded and the gates were shut tight. King Huai asked why this had happened. The envoy replied, "This is wartime regulation. It cannot be helped." After traveling 2 li further, the man who came to greet them was not the king of Qin, but Lord Jingyang. He said, "The king of Qin has fallen ill. Please come to Shanyang to meet him." 10,000 Qin soldiers surrounded the residence. King Huai had no choice and was escorted to Xianyang. When he arrived, King Zhouxiang demanded that he perform the ceremony of a vassal. King Huai became angry and said, "I came here trusting your invitation, and now you trick me and threaten me with soldiers. What kind of conduct is this?" King Zhouxiang replied, "You once promised to give me the land of Qiangzhong. Fulfill that promise today and you may return." King Huai answered, "First let us sign the alliance treaty, then send a general with me back to Chu to receive the land." But King Zhaoxiang said, "Treaties cannot be trusted. Give the land first and then you will be released." King Huai shouted angrily, "You tricked me into coming here and now demand land by force. I would rather die than agree." King Zhaoshang then kept him imprisoned in Xianyang. Jin Shang escaped back to Chu and told Zhao Ju, "The king of Qin demands the land of Qianzhong and has detained our king." Zhao Ju replied, "The Crown Prince is now a hostage in Qi. If Qi and Qin work together to hold him there, Chu will have no ruler. We should bring the Crown Prince back and place him on the throne." They sent messengers to Qi, falsely claiming that the king of Chu had died and asking the prince to return for the funeral. King Min of Qi wished to detain the prince and exchange him for land, but Lord Menchang advised him, "If Chu chooses another king, we will gain no land and will also earn a bad reputation." The king of Qi therefore allowed the crown prince Hang to return to Chu. He became King Qingshang of Chu. King Zhaoxiang of Qin held King Huai for a year, but still did not obtain the land. Angry and ashamed, he launched an attack on Chu and seized 15 cities. Taking advantage of careless guards, King Huai of Chu disguised himself and escaped from Shanyang. Not daring to return east, he fled north toward the state of Zhou. King Wuling of Zhou was 8 chi tall, striking in appearance, and full of ambition to swallow up the world. In the 16th year of his reign, he dreamed of a beautiful woman playing the qin. After he woke up, he could not stop thinking about her. A minister named Hu Guang said that his daughter Meng Yao was skilled at playing the qin. King Wuling summoned her, and sure enough, she looked exactly like the woman in his dream. So he took her as a consort and called her Wu Wa. She gave birth to a son named He. Later, after Queen Han died, King Wuling made Wu Wa his new queen. He removed the original crown prince Zhang and instead made He the new heir. King Wuling saw that Zhao was surrounded by enemies on all sides, so he ordered the whole state to copy the customs of the northern nomads, wearing short-sleeved Hu clothing with the robe crossing to the left, and learning horseback riding and archery. He himself dressed in Hu clothes first, and soon the whole state followed him. The army gave up war chariots and changed to cavalry, and its fighting strength rose sharply. King Wuling personally led campaigns to expand Zhao's borders. He pushed east to Changshan, west to Yunzhong, and north to Yanmen, taking several hundred li of land. Because of this, he began to dream of swallowing Qin as well. To focus fully on conquest, King Wuling passed the throne to Crown Prince He, who became King Hui of Zhao. He himself took the title of Lord Father. He appointed Fei Yi as Prime Minister, Li Diwai as Grand Tutor, and Prince Cheng as Commander. He also gave Enyang to his eldest son Zhang and granted him the title Lord of Enyang. Lord Father wanted to discover Qin's real strength, so he pretended to be a Shao envoy named Shao Shao and entered Qin with a painter, secretly mapping the terrain along the way. When he met King Zhaoxiang of Qin, he answered every question with perfect ease, and the Qin king respected him greatly. But in the middle of the night, the Qin king woke up and thought about it again. The envoy had looked far too noble and impressive, not at all like a minister. The more he thought about it, the more suspicious he became. At daybreak, he sent for the envoy again, but the envoy claimed to be ill and would not appear. 3 days later, Qing soldiers rushed into the guest house. They captured only one servant, who said that he was the real Xiao Xiao and that the supposed envoy had in fact been Lord Father himself, who had already left Shanyang 3 days earlier. The king of Qin was shocked. He ordered Bai Qi to pursue him, but Lord Father had long since passed the border. The king of Qin stayed uneasy for several days and sighed. The face of Zhao's Lord Father truly carried the bearing of a dragon. He stood before me in court, and I still failed to recognize him. Now let us turn to King Huai of Chu. After escaping from Qin, he fled to Zhao. King Huai of Zhao discussed the matter with his ministers. They feared angering Qin, and Lord Father was away in Dai, so no one dared make the decision. In the end, Zhao shut its gates and refused to admit him. King Huai had no choice but to think about fleeing to Wei, but Qin troops had already caught up, so he was seized again and taken back to Shanyang. King Huai was furious. He coughed up more than a dew of blood, fell gravely ill, and soon died. The minister Ku Yuan was heartbroken over King Huai's death. He saw that Zilan and Jing Xuang were still being trusted, and he repeatedly urged King Qingxiang of Chu to draw near to worthy men, keep far from traitors, train the army, and take revenge for the humiliation. Zilan told Jing Song to whisper to King Qingxiang, "Ku Yuan thinks he shares the royal surname and resents not being used. He keeps saying that your majesty is unfilial because you have forgotten Qin's insult." King Qingxiang flew into a rage. He stripped Ku Yuan of office and drove him back home. Ku Yuan's elder sister returned and tried to comfort him. She said, "Even if the king will not listen to you, you have already done your duty. What use is all this grief? Better to farm your own fields and live out the rest of your life." Ku Yuan could not go against his sister's wishes, so he went to work in the fields. But after little more than a month, he sighed. "Chu has fallen to this point. I cannot bear to watch the royal house perish." So he picked up a great stone and threw himself into the Miluo River. It was the 5th day of the 5th month. The villagers rowed out in boats to save him, but they were too late. So they wrapped millet rice into dumplings and threw them into the river as an offering, fearing that water dragons would seize the food meant for him. The boat race began from that day as well, and later generations kept it as a custom. Now back to Zhao. After Lord Father returned to Handan, he had King Hui sit in court and govern while he himself watched from the side. But he saw that King Hui was still young and sat facing south like a king, while his elder son, Zhang, though strong and imposing, had to stand below facing north in homage. The elder brother was beneath the younger brother, and the sight filled Lord Father with pity. After court was over, Lord Father said to Prince Zhang, "I am thinking of splitting Zhao into 2 parts, letting Zhang become king of Dai so that both brothers may rule side by side. What do you think?" Prince Zhang replied, "Your Majesty made the mistake in the beginning. Now the positions of ruler and subject are already fixed. If you stir up new trouble now, I fear it will lead to a struggle for the throne." After returning to the palace, Lady Wu Wa said, "In the past, Duke Mu of Jin granted Kuo to his younger brother Cheng Shi. Later, Kuo grew stronger and wiped out the line of the elder brother. Cheng Shi was only the younger brother and still destroyed the elder brother's line. Now you would make the elder brother bow before the younger. Our mother and son would become fish on another man's chopping block." Lord Father was swayed by her words and gave up the idea. But someone carried the news to Lord Enyang Zhang. Zhang then conferred with Tian Buli. Tian Buli said, "Lord Father wanted both sons to rule out of fairness, but a woman blocked it. King Hui is young and knows nothing. We should seize the moment." Grand Tutor Li Duai privately said to Fei Yi, "Lord Enyang is brave and overbearing, and Tian Buli is stubborn and reckless. The 2 of them have formed a clique. They are bound to do something desperate. Your rank and power are the greatest, so you will be the first target. Why not pretend to be ill and hand over state affairs to Prince Cheng?" But Fei Yi said, "Lord Father entrusted King Hui to me and made me prime minister because he believed I could be relied on in danger. If I start hiding before disaster even arrives, would I not be laughed at by Sun Shi? Later, Lord Father went to Shaku with King Hui. Lord Anyang Zhang also went along. Tian Buli said to Zhang, King Hui is traveling outside the capital and has few guards. If we send a false message in Lord Father's name calling him, he will surely come. We can place soldiers in ambush on the road, kill him there, and then calm everyone with an order in Lord Father's name. No one will dare resist. So Zhang sent a trusted man disguised as Lord Father's messenger to summon King Hui at night. Gao Xin at once informed Fei Yi. Fei Yi said, Lord Father has never been ill. This is highly suspicious. I will go ahead of the king. If there is no change on the road, then the king may follow. Fei Yi rode out first with a few men and followed the messenger. In the middle of the road, the ambushers thought he was King Hui and rushed out, killing them all. When Tian Bili raised a torch and looked carefully, he saw that the man was Fei Yi, not the king. He was badly shaken and said, The situation has changed. Before the news spreads, we must lead troops tonight and strike King Hui directly. So he and Zhang led soldiers to attack King Hui, but Gao Xin had already made preparations. Tian Buli could not break into the royal residence at once. At daybreak, Gao Xin ordered the soldiers to shoot arrows from the rooftops, and when the arrows ran out, they tore off roof tiles and hurled them down. At the most dangerous moment, battle cries suddenly rose outside the gate, and two forces came charging in. The rebel troops were defeated. It was Prince Cheng and Li Duai, each leading a force to the rescue. Seeing defeat, Lord Anyang Zhang rode alone to Lord Father's palace. Lord Father really did open the gate and hide him inside. Li Duai guessed immediately that Zhang must have fled to Lord Father, so he surrounded the palace. With sword in hand, Li Duai entered first and said to Lord Father, Lord Anyang has rebelled. By the law of the state, this cannot be tolerated. Please hand him over. Lord Father replied, He has not come into my palace. Li Duai answered, At a time like this, it is only proper to search. Then he ordered the guards to search everywhere. In a hidden space inside the wall, they found Lord Anyang Zhang. Li Duai drew his sword and cut off his head on the spot. Li Duai then said to Prince Cheng, Lord Father opened the gate and took Zhang in. His heart was clearly still with him. We surrounded the palace because of Zhang, searched it, found him, and killed him. Would that not wound Lord Father deeply once this affair is over? If Lord Father investigates the crime of surrounding his palace, all our clans will be wiped out. So he gave the order that the palace must remain surrounded. Then he had a false royal command announced. Those inside the palace who come out first will be pardoned. Those who come out later will be treated as rebels' accomplices and their clans will be exterminated. The attendants and officials inside rushed out in panic. In the end, only Lord Father remained. He called for people, but no one answered. He tried to leave, but the gate had already been locked. He remained trapped for months. Starving in the palace and having nowhere to find food, he climbed the trees in the courtyard and ate raw bird eggs from the nests. After more than a month, he starved to death. Li Duai and the others waited over 3 months before opening the palace gates. Inside, Lord Father's body had already dried up and shriveled. After King Hui returned to the capital, he appointed Prince Cheng as Prime Minister and Li Yuai as Minister of Justice. After Prince Cheng died, King Hui appointed Prince Sheng as Prime Minister and granted him Pingyuan, giving him the title Lord Pingyuan. Lord Pingyuan also loved to keep retainers. His household often had several thousand guests. In Lord Pingyuan's residence, there was a painted tower where beautiful women lived. The tower looked down over the home of a common man outside the walls. That man had a crippled leg, and every morning he limped out to fetch water. One beauty on the tower saw him and could not help laughing. The crippled man came to Lord Pingyuan's gate and said, I have heard that your lordship loves to keep worthy men. Men come from 1,000 li away because they think you value scholars more than women. I am unfortunate to have a lame leg, yet one of the women in your inner quarters laughed at me. I cannot bear to be humiliated by a woman. I want the head of the one who laughed at me. Prince Sheng smiled and agreed. After the cripple left, Lord Pingyuan laughed and said, This man is absurd. Because of one laugh, does he expect me to kill my beauty? From then on, however, his guests decreased day by day. After a year, more than half were gone.
Lord Pingyuan was puzzled, so he rang the bell and gathered all the retainers. One guest stepped forward and said, "Because your lordship did not kill the beauty who mocked the lame man, everyone felt anger in their hearts. They believed that you loved women and looked down on scholars. That is why they left." Lord Pingyuan was shocked. At once he drew his sword and ordered the woman on the tower to be beheaded. Then he personally went to the lame man's door, knelt, and asked forgiveness. The cripple was greatly pleased. After that, all the retainers praised Lord Pingyuan's virtue, and his guests became as numerous as before. When King Zhaoxiang of Qin heard of this, he praised Lord Pingyuan's worth. But Xiangshou said, "He is far inferior to Lord Mengchang of Qi." The king of Qin asked, "And what is Lord Mengchang like?" Xiangshu replied, "When Lord Mengchang receives guests, their clothes and food are exactly the same as his own. All the men who come from Qi believe he truly treats them well, and not one feels resentment." But Lord Pingyuan allowed a beauty to laugh at a cripple and did not kill her until the retainers had already turned away from him. "Was that not too late?" the king of Qin said. "How could I ever meet Lord Mengchang?" Xiangshou answered, "If your majesty sends your own son as a hostage to Qi and asks to see Lord Mengchang, Qi will trust Qin and will not dare refuse." The king said, "Good." So he sent Lord Jingyangkui as a hostage to Qi and requested that Lord Mengchang come to Qin. When the retainers heard that the king of Qin had invited him, they all urged Lord Mengchang to go. Just then Su Dai arrived in Qi as an envoy from Yan and said to Lord Mengchang, "Today on the road I saw a clay figurine speaking with a wooden figurine. The wooden one said, 'Rain is about to fall from the sky. You are going to be ruined.' The clay one laughed and said, 'I am made of clay. If I collapse, I return to the earth. But if rain strikes you, you will drift away, and I do not know where your home will be.' Qin is a state of wolves and tigers. Even King Huai of Chu could not come back. How much less can you?" Lord Mengchang then said he no longer wished to go, but Guangzhang told King Min of Qi, "Qin has sent a hostage because it wants friendship with Qi. If Lord Mengchang does not go, Qin will lose all goodwill toward us." King Min thought this reasonable and sent Lord Mengchang to Qin. Lord Mengchang took more than 1,000 retainers and over 100 carriages with him and traveled west to Xianyang. The king of Qin came down the steps to welcome him and grasped his hands. Lord Mengchang possessed a white fox fur coat. The fur was 2 kun long, white as snow, worth 1,000 pieces of gold, and said to be the only one of its kind in the world. He presented it to the king of Qin as a gift. The king of Qin wore the coat into the inner palace and showed it off to his favorite Yan Ji. Yan Ji said, "A white fox coat is not so rare. What is so precious about it?" The king replied, "A fox must live several thousand years before its fur becomes white. This one is made of pure white fox fur, so it is priceless." An auspicious day was chosen to appoint Lord Mengchang as chancellor. But Chu Liji was jealous that Lord Mengchang was being favored, so he sent a guest to persuade the king of Qin. "Tianwen is a man of Qi. If your majesty makes him chancellor of Qin, he will certainly put Qi first and Qin second. If he uses Qin's power for the sake of Qi, Qin will be in danger." The king of Qin was misled by these words and ordered Lord Mengchang to be detained in the guest residence. When Lord Jingyang had been in Qi before, Lord Mengchang had treated him very well. So when he heard of the king's plan, he secretly visited Lord Mengchang and told him what was happening. Lord Mengchang was terrified and asked what could be done. Lord Jingyang replied, "In the palace there is a Yan Ji. She is the king's greatest favorite, and he listens to everything she says. If you have treasures or gifts, I will present them to her and ask her to speak for you." Lord Mengchang took out 2 pairs of white jade discs and asked Lord Jingyang to offer them to Yan Ji. Yan Ji said, "What I especially love is a white fox fur coat. I have heard that only the great states east of the mountains possess such a thing. If I had that coat, I would not hesitate to say one word to the king on your behalf." Lord Mengchang said, "There was only one white fox coat, and it has already been given to the king of Qin. Where could I possibly find another?" He asked all his retainers, but no one had a solution. At last, one of the very lowest ranking retainers said, "I can get it." Lord Mengchang asked,
"What can you do?" The man replied, "I can steal like a dog." That very night, the man disguised himself as a dog and crawled through a dog hole into the Qin Palace storeroom, barking as he went. The storehouse guards thought it was really a dog and paid no attention. After the guards fell asleep, the man stole the key from beside one of them, opened the cabinet where the coat was stored, took the white fox coat, and brought it back to Lord Mengchang. Lord Mengchang had Lord Jingyang present it to Yanji. She was delighted. That night, while drinking with the king, Yanji said, "I have heard that Lord Mengchang of Qi is the most famous worthy man in the world. If your majesty does not wish to employ him, that is one thing, but why kill him? If you invite another state's great minister and then kill him for no reason, you will earn the name of a killer of worthy men. I fear that all the talented people under heaven will then avoid Qin from afar." The king of Qin said, "You are right." The next morning in court, he ordered that Lord Mengchang be allowed to return to Qi. Lord Mengchang said, "I have escaped the tiger's mouth only by a single word from Yanji. If the king of Qin changes his mind, my life is finished." Among his retainers was a man skilled at forging travel documents. He altered the pass so that Lord Mengchang's name was changed, and that same night they fled at top speed. When they reached Hangul Pass, it was midnight. The gates had long been locked. By regulation, the gates were shut after dark once all travelers had passed, and they would not open until cockcrow. Lord Menchan feared that pursuers would catch them, and he and his retainers were in great anxiety. Suddenly, from among the lower retainers came the sound of a rooster crowing. Lord Menchan was astonished. Looking closely, he saw that one of the low-ranking retainers could imitate a rooster's cry. Soon, all the real chickens began to crow as well. The gate guards thought dawn had come. They rose, checked the travel papers, and opened the pass. Lord Mengchang and his party whipped their horses and fled at full speed. Then Lord Mengchang said to the two men, "My escape from the tiger's mouth today was all thanks to the skills of dog theft and rooster crowing." All the other retainers were ashamed that they had done nothing. From then on, they never again dared look down on the low-ranking guests. When Chu Liji heard that Lord Mengchang had been released, he immediately went to King Zhao and said, "Even if your majesty did not wish to kill Tianwen, you should at least have kept him as a hostage. Why let him go?" The king also felt deep regret. He immediately sent men riding at full speed in pursuit. But when they reached Hangul Pass, the guards said, "They rushed through in haste and are already more than 100 li away by now. They cannot be caught." The king sighed and said, "Lord Mengchang truly has a mind as mysterious as spirits and gods. No wonder he is known throughout the world as the greatest of worthy men." Lord Mengchang barely escaped death in Qin. When he passed through Zhou, Lord Pingyuan Zhao Sheng rode out 30 li from the city to welcome him with full ceremony. The people of Zhou had long heard of Lord Mengchang's fame, so they all crowded in to see him. But the moment they saw him, many of them laughed. "So this is Lord Mengchang. He is such a short man. We thought he would be some giant who touched the sky." Some could not help laughing out loud. But that very night, everyone who had mocked Lord Mengchang lost his head. Lord Pingyuan understood in his heart that Lord Mengchang's retainers had done it, but he did not dare ask questions. When King Min of Qi heard that Lord Mengchang had returned alive, he was as happy as if he had recovered his own right hand. He immediately restored him to office. Lord Mengchang divided his retainers into 3 ranks. The highest rank, called Da She, ate meat and rode in carriages. The middle rank, called Xing She, ate meat but had no carriages. The lowest rank, called Chuan She, at least had enough food to fill their bellies. The few men who had helped him escape by imitating a dog and a rooster were now treated as honored guests. To support these thousands of mouths, Lord Mengchang lent money at high interest in his fief of Zhou. One day, a big man named Fengzhuan arrived. He wore ragged clothes and broken shoes, and at his waist hung a sword without a scabbard. After being placed in the lowest lodging, he spent every day tapping his sword and singing, long sword, let us go home. At meals, there is not even any fish." When Lord Mengchang heard this, he moved him up to the middle lodging, where he was given fish to eat. A few days later, Fengzhuan sang again, Long sword, let us go home. When I go out, I still have no carriage." Lord Mengchang was startled. He thought this man must truly have talent, so he moved him up to the highest lodging and assigned him a carriage. Yet Feng Zhuan still sang, long sword, let us go home. Back at home, no one is taking care of my old and young."
Though Lord Mengchang was not pleased, he still sent people to look after Feng Zhuan's family. A year later, Lord Mengchang worried that money was running short. He asked who would go to Zhou to collect debts. Feng Zhuan stepped forward and volunteered. When he arrived in Zhou, he did not press anyone for repayment. Instead, he slaughtered cattle, bought wine, and invited all the debtors to drink. After everyone had eaten and drunk their fill, Feng Zhuan took out the debt records and checked them one by one. Then he threw all the notes belonging to poor people into the fire and burned them. He shouted, "Lord Mengchang lent this money to help you in your time of need, not to profit from your misery. These debts are forgiven." The people were so moved that they knelt and shouted blessings for Lord Mengchang. Feng Zhuan returned empty-handed to report back. Lord Mengchang's face turned green with anger. But Feng Zhuan calmly said, "I did not bring back money, but I brought back virtue for you. Zhu is the root of your power. By burning those bad debts that could never really be collected, I won you the people's hearts. That is something beyond price." Lord Mengchang still felt pain for the lost money, but he could only force a smile. Soon after, Qin spread rumors that Lord Mengchang had grown too powerful and meant to seize the throne. King Min of Qi believed the slander and dismissed him. His retainers scattered like monkeys from a fallen tree. Only Feng Zhuan drove the carriage and escorted him back to Zhou. As soon as they entered the borders of Zhou, the people came out in crowds, old and young together, lining both sides of the road. They brought wine and meat to welcome him. Lord Mengchang said with deep feeling to Feng Zhuan, "Now I have truly seen the virtue you spoke of." But Feng Zhuan replied, "This is still not enough. I will win back your chancellorship for you." Feng Zhuan went to Qin and said to King Zhaoxiang of Qin, "King Min has dismissed Lord Mengchang, and he is full of bitterness. Your Majesty should quickly send rich gifts and invite him to serve Qin. If he comes over, all the secrets of Qi will become yours, and swallowing Qi will be as easy as turning over your hand." The King of Qin was delighted. He immediately sent 10 carriages with 100 yi of gold to fetch him. Then Feng Zhuan rushed back to Qi and said to King Min, "Qin has sent heavy gifts to lure Lord Mengchang away. If he goes to Qin, Qi will be finished." King Min was terrified. He hurriedly restored Lord Mengchang as chancellor and even enlarged his fief. By the time Qin's envoys reached Zhou, they learned that Lord Mengchang had already become chancellor again. They could only go back in embarrassment. Lord Mengchang sighed over the coldness of the world, but Feng Zhuan said, "In the morning the market is crowded, and in the evening it is empty. That is not because people have changed, it is only because profit rises and falls." At this time, the state of Song had produced a tyrant, King Kang of Song. He was immensely strong, but also wild and immoral. He even had men shoot arrows at heaven and curse the gods, and he called himself Ji of Song. He took a liking to the wife of his retainer Han Ping, a woman named Shi, and seized her into the palace by force. Han Ping killed himself. Shi left a final message before throwing herself from a tower, asking only to be buried together with her husband. Then she jumped and died. The king of Song deliberately buried the two of them apart. But after 3 days, a tree sprang from each grave, and their branches and leaves grew together. In the branches sat a pair of mandarin ducks crying in sorrow. People called them the trees of longing. King Min of Qi followed Su Dai's advice and joined with Chu and Wei to attack Song. Su Dai then ran to the king of Qin and said, "Everyone hates the king of Song. If your majesty saves him, you will make an enemy of the whole world. Better to let Qi swallow Song. That will anger Chu and Wei, and then they will naturally come over to your side." The king of Qin did indeed sit still and do nothing. The allied armies of the 3 states advanced like a flood breaking through a dam. The king of Song lost all support and was finally captured and killed. Thus the state of Song was destroyed. After Song had fallen, King Min of Qi became swollen with pride. He thought Chu and Wei had taken too little land, so he secretly turned against his allies and seized all of the lands north of the Huai River for himself. Then he forced the surrounding smaller states to bow as subjects. He even wanted to replace the Son of Heaven of Zhou and move the 9 tripods to Lindsay. Lord Mengchang bitterly tried to stop him. The king of Song perished because he grew too arrogant. Your Majesty must never follow the same road. King Min flew into a rage and dismissed Lord Mengchang once again. Fearing he would be killed, Lord Mengchong fled by night to Wei and sought refuge with Lord Xingling Wei Wuji. Wei Wuji was humble and respectful by nature. Once, because a turtle dove hiding under his table was snatched away by a hawk, he blamed himself and refused food. He caught more than 100 hawks, killed only the one guilty bird, and released all the others. Because of this, his name spread everywhere. When he heard that the gatekeeper Ho Ying was a great worthy man, he personally drove his carriage to invite him. Ho Ying deliberately lingered in the marketplace at the home of his butcher friend Zhu Hai, chatting for a long time and leaving Wuji waiting in the carriage, just to test his sincerity. But Wuji remained respectful from beginning to end. At last, he moved Ho Ying's heart. From then on, 3,000 retainers gathered under Wei Wuji's roof as well, and his fame stood beside that of Lord Mengchong and Lord Pingyuan. As for King Min of Qi, after driving out Lord Mengchong, he grew even more arrogant. He even put 2 remonstrating ministers to death. As a result, all hearts turned away from him. Then blood rained from the sky, the earth collapsed in places, and the people were filled with fear. The disaster of Qi was now very close at hand.
After King Zhao Wei Yan took the throne, he thought day and night about taking revenge on Qi and washing away the old shame. He mourned the dead, comforted the living, shared hardship with his soldiers, and built the Golden Terrace to attract worthy men from all under heaven. In Zhao, there was a man named Yu Yi, the grandson of the famous general Luoyang. From childhood, he loved to study military strategy. When he heard that King Shao of Yang was gathering talent, he went to serve him. After meeting the king, Yu Yi spoke about warfare and strategy. King Zhao saw at once that he was a man of real ability, so he received him with the courtesy due to an honored guest. Yue Yi tried to decline this treatment, but the king said, "You were born in Zhao and have held office in Wei. Yan should naturally treat you as a guest." Yu Yi replied, "If your majesty does not despise my lack of talent, then please allow me to become your subject." King Zhao was overjoyed and immediately appointed him as a high minister. Yu Yi said to King Zhao, "Qi is vast, with many people. Yan cannot attack it alone. If your majesty truly wishes to punish Qi, then you must make common cause with the other lords. Of Yan's neighbors, none is closer than Zhao. Your majesty should first join with Zhao to attack Qi, and then Han will surely follow. Lord Menchan is now in Wei and already hates Qi. He will not refuse to send troops." King Zhao said. "Good." He then sent Yu Yi with tally and credentials to persuade Zhao. Lord Pingyuan Zhao Sheng passed Yu Yi's words to King Huiwen of Zhao, and King Huiwen agreed to campaign against Qi. Qin also feared that Qi had become too strong and was willing to join. In the end, the combined armies of Yan, Qin, Zhao, Wei, and Han assembled. Yu Yi was made supreme commander, and the vast host marched against Qi. King Min of Qi personally led the central army and, together with his great general Han Ni, met them on the western side of the Ji River. Yu Yi took the lead in battle, and the soldiers and officers of the 4 allied states all fought with desperate courage. Qi's troops were cut down in heaps. Han Ni was killed by Yu Chang, Yu Yi's younger brother. The allied armies pressed the advantage and chased them hard. King Min suffered a crushing defeat and fled back to Lindsey. On one hand, he secretly sent men through the night to ask Chu for help. On the other hand, he tried to defend the city. Yu Yi himself led the army straight forward, spreading proclamations of benevolence and authority wherever he passed, until the great host reached the walls of Lindsey. King Min was terrified, so he secretly opened the north gate with several dozen civil and military officials and fled in the night. He first came to Wei. The ruler of Wei came out to the suburbs to welcome him as a subject and even gave up the main hall for him to live in. But King Min was still arrogant and showed the ruler of Wei no courtesy at all. The Wei ministers were deeply displeased. That night they sent men to seize all his baggage and supplies. King Min was furious and planned to rebuke the ruler of Wei when he came to court the next day, but the ruler did not appear. He also stopped sending food. Angry and ashamed, King Min fled again in the night. Once their lord was gone, the officials who had followed him scattered at once. King Min and the rest soon reached the border of Lu. The ruler of Lu sent an envoy out of the city to receive him. Yi Wei asked, "How does your ruler intend to receive our king?" The envoy answered, "With 10 oxen, 10 sheep, and 10 pigs." Yi Wei said, "Our king of Qi is the son of heaven." When the son of heaven makes an inspection tour, the feudal lords and all officials ought to attend him morning and evening in the hall while he eats. Is a gift of 10 oxen, 10 sheep, and 10 pigs enough for that? The envoy returned and reported these words. The ruler of Lu flew into a rage, shut the gates, and refused entry. Then King Min went to Zhou, just as the ruler of Zhou had died, and wanted to go offer condolences. Yi Wei said, "When the Son of Heaven mourns for someone, the host must stand on the western steps with his back to the coffin and face north as he weeps. The Son of Heaven stands on the eastern steps and faces south while offering mourning." The people of Zhou replied, "We are a small state and dare not trouble the Son of Heaven with mourning." So they also refused him. King Min had no tricks left. At last he fled to Zhou Prefecture. Chu sent its great general Nao Qi with 200,000 troops under the name of rescuing Qi, while in fact meaning to seize land. King Min trusted Nao Qi greatly, made him chief minister, and handed all power to him. When Nao Qi saw how strong the Yan army was, he feared that saving Qi would bring him no gain. So he secretly sent envoys to communicate with Yu Yi, and planned to kill the king of Qi and then divide Qi with Yang. He arranged troops inside the drum house and invited King Min to review the soldiers. As soon as the king arrived, he was seized. Nao Qi listed the king's crimes, then ran a rope through his tendons and hung him from a beam. Only after 3 days did he finally die. There was a Qi noble named Wang Songziya. His father had died when he was 12, and only his old mother remained. When King Min fled, Wang Songziya fled with him. After they were separated in Wei, he no longer knew where the king had gone, so he secretly returned home. When his mother saw him, she asked, "Where is the king of Qi?" Wang Shenjia answered, "I followed the king as far as Wei. The king ran off in the middle of the night, and I do not know where he went." His mother became angry and said, "When you go out in the morning and come back at night, I lean at the gate waiting for you. If you go out at night and do not return, I stand at the crossroads looking for you." A ruler looking for his subject is no different from a mother looking for her son. You are a subject of the king of Qi. The king fled in the night, and you do not even know where he is. Then what are you doing back at home? Wang Shenjia was overcome with shame. He took leave of his mother and went out again to search for the king. When he heard that the king was in Zhou, he hurried there. But by the time he arrived, he learned that King Min had already been killed by Nao Qi. He bayed his left shoulder and cried out in the marketplace. Nao Qi was chief minister of Qi, yet he murdered his ruler. He is a subject without loyalty. If anyone is willing to join me in punishing his crime, bare your left shoulder as I have done." The people in the market looked at one another and said, "This man is still young, yet he has a heart of loyalty and righteousness. Since we too claim to love loyalty and righteousness, we ought to go with him." In an instant, more than 400 men had bared their left shoulders. Wang Songzhai led them, seized the soldiers' weapons, charged into the palace, hacked Nao Qi into pieces like minced meat, and then shut the gates and held the city. Now, the crown prince of Qi, Fa Zhang, had heard that the king had met disaster. He quickly changed into poor man's clothes, called himself Wang Li of Lindsay, and fled in hiding. He came to the house of the grand historian Zhou and worked there as a servant, watering the flower garden and laboring hard. No one knew he was the prince. Grand historian Zhou had a daughter who was only 15 years old. One day, she happened to see Fa Zhang in the garden and was greatly startled. "This is no ordinary man. Why is he here?" She sent a maid to ask his background. Fa Zhang, afraid of bringing trouble on himself, refused to say. The girl said, "A white dragon hides among fish only because it fears danger. Its future wealth and honor cannot be measured." She often sent maids to bring him clothing and food. As time passed, the two of them grew close. Fa Zhang told her his true identity, and the two pledged themselves to each other in secret. No one else in the household knew. At this time, the defending general of Jimo died of illness. The army had no commander, and the soldiers wanted to choose someone who understood warfare, but they could not find the right man. Then someone remembered Tian Dan and the story of his cut axle, and said his talent was enough to command the army, so they raised him up as general. Tian Dan led by example. He worked together with the soldiers and even enrolled his own relatives and his wife's relatives among the defenders. The people of the city all supported him. After 6 months of campaigning, Yu Yi had already taken more than 70 key cities and turned them into young commanderies and counties. Only Zhou and Jimo still had not fallen. Yu Yi therefore stopped to rest the army and nourish the troops. He abolished the harsh edicts of King Min of Qi, lightened taxes and labor, and hoped that the people inside the cities would feel gratitude and surrender. King Zhou of Yan, however, loved immortals and strange arts. He had magicians refine gold and minerals into divine elixirs and took them for so long that he developed a fever and died. The crown prince Guiguzi then ascended the throne as King Hui of Yan. Tian Dan often sent spies into Yan to learn the news. When he heard about Qiji's scheme to replace Yu Yi and the punishment the crown prince had suffered under the old king, he sighed and said, "If Qi is to be restored, it will happen under Yan's later ruler." Then King Zhao of Yan died, and King Hui took the throne. Tian Dan sent men to Yan to spread rumors. Yue Yi long ago wanted to become king of Qi. He only delayed attacking the 2 remaining cities because he could not bear to betray the kindness of the late king of Yan. Now that the new king has ascended, he will rise at any moment. King Hui of Luoyang had already been suspicious of Yu Yi when he heard these rumors, and found that they matched what Qiji had once said. He believed them. So he sent Qiji to replace Yu Yi and summoned Yu Yi back to court. Yu Yi feared that once he returned, he would be killed. He said only, "I am a man of Zhou," abandoned even his whole family, and fled to Zhou. The king of Zhou granted him Guanjin as a fief and gave him the title Lord Wangju. Once Qiji took over, he changed all of Yu Yi's orders. The Yan army became deeply resentful. After only 3 days in camp, he led the army to attack Jimo, surrounding it in several layers. But the defense inside the city only became stronger. One morning, Tian Dan rose early and said to the people in the city, "Last night I dreamed that the Supreme God told me this. Qi is destined to rise again, and Yan is about to fail. Before long, a divine man will come and serve as our military teacher. Then we will win every battle." A little soldier understood what Tian Dan meant. He stepped forward and said quietly, "Could I serve as that military teacher?" Then he turned and ran. Tian Dan hurried after him, pulled him back, and said before everyone, "The divine man I saw in my dream is this very one." He changed the man's clothes, seated him in the place of honor, and treated him like a teacher. Tian Dan called him the Divine Master. Before issuing any command, he first asked the Divine Master, then acted. He also told the people in the city, "The Divine Master has ordered that everyone who eats must first make offerings to his ancestors in the courtyard. Then your forefathers in the dark world will help you." The people all obeyed. Birds from the sky saw the food in the courtyards and flew down to snatch it. This happened morning and evening. When the Yan soldiers saw it, they thought it was a strange omen. Then they heard that a divine being had descended. They passed the story around, and all believed that Qi had the help of heaven. They no longer dared fight against it, for that would mean defying heaven's will. Their will to battle began to collapse. Tian Dan then sent people to spread another rumor, one that touched on Yu Yi's weakness. Lord Changguo was too kind. He never killed captured men of Qi, so the people in the city were not afraid. But if the captives had their noses cut off and were placed before the lines, then the people of Jimo would be driven to despair. Qiji believed this rumor and cut off the noses of the surrendered soldiers. When the people in the city saw that all who surrendered had their noses cut off, they were filled with terror and swore among themselves to defend the city to the death, for they feared nothing more than being taken alive by Yan. Tian Dan spread yet another rumor. The tombs of the people in the city all lie outside the walls. What if the men of Yan were to dig them up? Guiguzi once again did exactly what the rumor suggested. He sent troops to dig open the graves outside the city, burn the corpses, and scatter the bones. From the walls of Jimo, the people saw this and wept bitterly. They longed to eat young flesh raw. They came to Tiandan's camp and begged to be allowed to fight so they could avenge their ancestors. Tiandan saw that the spirit of the city had reached its highest point, so he secretly selected 5,000 strong men and hid them among the people. As for the rest, the old, the weak, and the women took turns defending the walls. Then he sent an envoy to the Yan camp and said, "The city has no more grain. On such and such a day, we will open the gates and surrender." Guiguzi believed him. He said to the officers, "How do I compare with Yu Yi?" They all answered, "You are far better than Yu Yi." The soldiers leaped and shouted, 10,000 years. Tiandan then gathered 1,000 yi of gold from among the rich families in the city and had them secretly send it to the Yan commanders, begging them to spare their households when the city fell. The Yan officers were delighted. They accepted the gold and gave each family a small flag to place over its gate as a mark. The Yan army made no preparations at all. They simply waited stupidly for Tiandan to surrender. Tiandan then had the people collect more than 1,000 oxen from inside the city. He made red cloth coverings for them, painted them with 5-colored dragon patterns, tied sharp blades to their horns, and tied bundles of oiled reeds to their tails so that they trailed behind like great brooms. All this was made ready on the day before the promised surrender. No one understood what he intended. Tiandan also prepared wine and meat. At dusk, he called the 5,000 picked men and let them eat their fill. He painted their faces in 5 colors as well, gave them sharp weapons, and made them follow behind the oxen. He ordered the people to cut dozens of holes through the city wall. Then the oxen were driven out through the openings, and the reed bundles on their tails were set alight with torches. As the fire burned toward their tails, the oxen roared in pain and charged straight into the Yan camp. The 5,000 picked men followed silently behind them. The Yan soldiers were all asleep, dreaming sweetly of entering the city the next day to receive surrender. Suddenly, they heard the thunder of rushing feet and awoke from their dreams. More than 1,000 flames lit the night as bright as day. They saw what looked like 5-colored dragons rushing at them, and wherever the blades touched, men fell dead or wounded. The whole camp at once dissolved into chaos. That band of 5,000 men spoke not a word. They simply hacked and cut with savage force, striking down everyone they met. Though they were only 5,000, in the confusion, it seemed as though tens of thousands had come. Besides, the young soldiers had long heard stories that a divine military teacher had descended. Now, seeing these ghostly and godlike figures, they had no idea what they were facing. Tiandan then personally led the people of the city out in a wild charge. Even the old, the weak, and the women came, beating on bronze vessels and making a deafening noise that shook the heavens. The courage of the Yan soldiers broke. Their legs gave way. No one dared resist. Everyone ran, everyone pushed, and they trampled each other to death in great numbers. Guiguzi fled in his chariot, but ran straight into Tiandan, who struck him down with one thrust of his halberd. The Yan army suffered a crushing defeat. Tiandan then put his troops in order and pursued them in victory, winning everywhere he went. In every city and town, the people heard that Qi had won and that the young commander was dead. They all rose against Yan and returned to Qi. Tiandan's power grew greater and greater until he reached the river and then the northern border of Qi. The more than 70 cities taken by Yan all returned to Qi. The officers all said Tiandan's merit was so great that they ought to make him king. Tiandan replied, "The crown prince Fa Zhang is in Zhou. How would I dare make myself king?" So he went to Zhou to welcome Fa Zhang. Wang Shenjia drove the carriage for Fa Zhang, and together they came to Linzi. After burying King Min, they chose an auspicious day, offered prayers in the ancestral temple, and took up court government. King Shang of Qi said to Tiandan, "It is all due to my uncle's merit that Qi has turned from danger to safety and, once lost, now lives again. My uncle first became known in Anping, therefore I now enslave you as Lord of Anping with 10,000 households." He also made Wang Sunjia a high minister. He then took the daughter of Grand Historian Zhou as queen. Only then did her father learn that she had earlier pledged herself to Fa Zhang. He was furious and said, "You gave yourself away without a matchmaker. You are not my daughter." For the rest of his life, he never again met her. When King Xiang of Qi tried to raise his office and salary, he refused it all. By this time, Lord Mingchang was in Wei and handed over the seal of office to Prince Wuji. The king of Wei then infamed Wuji as Lord Xinling. Lord Mingchang returned to Zhou and lived there almost like a feudal ruler. He remained on very friendly terms with Lord Pingyuan and Lord Xinling. King Xiang of Qi both respected and feared Lord Mengchang, so he again sent envoys to invite him back as chancellor. Lord Mengchang refused. From then on, he traveled between Qi and Wei, keeping friendly relations between the two states. After his death, because he had no son, his many sons fought over the lordship. Qi and Wei then destroyed Zhou and divided its lands between them. As for King Hui of Yan, after Qiji's defeat, he finally understood Yue Yi's worth, but by then, regret was useless. So he sent a letter to Yue Yi, asking forgiveness and hoping he might return to Yan. Yue Yi wrote back in gratitude, but he would not return. Fearing that Zhou might use Yue Yi against Yan, the king of Yan let Yue Yi's son You Jian inherit the title of Lord Changguo, and he made Yue Yi's half-brother You Chang a general, showing both of them great favor. Yue Yi then moved back and forth between the two states and helped them remain friendly. Both Yan and Zhao treated him as an honored guest. In the end, he died in Zhao. At this time, Lian Po served as a great general of Zhao. He had both courage and strategy and was highly skilled in war. The feudal lords all feared him. Qin troops invaded Zhao's borders many times, but Lian Po always blocked them, so Qin could not push deep into Zhao. In the end, Qin had no choice but to make peace with Zhao. King Huan of Zhao had a favored minister named Miao Xian. He spent 500 pieces of gold to buy a jade disc. When a jade craftsman saw it, he was shocked and cried out, "This is the long-lost He Shi Bai. It glows in the dark, feels warm in winter and cool in summer, and can even drive away mosquitoes and evil things. It is a priceless treasure." When the king of Zhao heard this, he forcibly took the jade from Miao Xian's house. Miao Xian was so frightened that he wanted to flee to Yan, but one of his retainers, Lin Shangru, stopped him and said, "You are mistaken. The king of Yan treated you well before only because you were favored by the king of Zhao. Now that you have offended the king of Zhao, the king of Yan will fear Zhao's revenge and will surely seize you and send you back. It would be better to bare your shoulders, carry an axe on your back, and go ask for punishment. The king of Zhao may still spare you." Miao Xian followed his advice and was indeed pardoned. From then on, he knew Lin Shangru was a man of wisdom and treated him as a distinguished guest. Now in Qin, King Zhaoshang heard that the He Shi Bai was in Zhao and wanted it badly. Prime Minister Wei Ran offered a plan. "Your Majesty should write and say that you are willing to exchange 15 cities for the jade. Zhao will not dare refuse. If they send the jade, we can simply break our word. If they refuse, we will have an excuse to attack." When the king of Zhao received the letter, he was trapped in a dilemma. If he gave up the jade, he feared being cheated. If he refused, he feared Qin would invade. The ministers argued noisily, and Miao Xian recommended Lin Shangru as envoy. Lin Shangru made a solemn pledge to the king of Zhao. "If the cities return to Zhao, then the jade will remain in Qin. If the cities are not given, I will bring the jade back whole to Zhao." When he reached Qin, the king of Qin received him at Zhangtai. He took the jade and passed it around among the ministers and palace ladies to admire, but said not a word about handing over the cities. Lin Shangru at once understood what was happening. He stepped forward and said, "This jade has a tiny flaw. Let me point it out for your majesty." Once he had the jade back in his hands, he retreated beside a pillar, his hair bristling with anger, and shouted, "Your majesty has no sincerity at all. You only want to seize the jade by force. If you press me today, I will smash both my head and this jade against this pillar." The king of Qin feared the jade would be destroyed, so he quickly apologized and pretended to mark out 15 cities. Lin Shangru knew this was only a delaying trick, so he said, "Our king of Zhao fasted for 5 days before sending this jade. Your Majesty should also fast for 5 days and hold a grand ceremony. Only then will I present the jade." The King of Qin agreed. As soon as Lin Shangru returned to the guest house, he immediately had one of his attendants disguise himself as a poor man, hide the jade at his waist, and slip back by a small road to Zhou. 5 days later, Lin Shangru went empty-handed to see the King of Qin and said calmly, "The rulers of Qin through the generations have often been deceitful. I feared being tricked, so I already had the jade sent back to Zhou. If your Majesty truly wants it, then first hand over the cities. Zhou would never dare break such a promise. I know that deceiving a ruler is a crime worthy of death. You may kill me or cut me to pieces as you wish, but do not let all under heaven laugh at Qin for killing an envoy over a single piece of jade." The King of Qin and his ministers looked at each other. Killing him would not recover the jade, and it would only ruin Qin's reputation, so they had no choice but to send him back with rich gifts. This is the story called Returning the Jade Intact to Zhou. Not long afterward, the King of Qin invited the King of Zhou to meet at Mianqi. The King of Zhou feared he would be detained, but Lian Po and Lin Shangru urged him that he had to go. They arranged for Li Mu to escort him with elite troops, while Lian Po waited at the border to support him. They agreed that if the king did not return within 30 days, the crown prince would be set up as king.
At the banquet, the King of Qin humiliated the King of Zhou by making him play the sea. Then he ordered the royal historian to record, "The King of Zhou played the sea for the King of Qin." Lin Xiangru immediately stepped forward holding a clay jar and knelt before the King of Qin, forcing him to strike it. He declared that otherwise blood would be spilled within 5 paces. The King of Qin had no choice but to strike it once. Lin Xiangru then ordered Zhao's own historian to record, "The King of Qin struck a clay jar for the King of Zhou." Then the Qin ministers demanded that Zhao cede land as a birthday offering. Lin Xiangru answered in kind and demanded that Qin cede Xianyang as a birthday offering instead. When the King of Qin saw that Zhao had made careful military preparations, he could only let the matter drop. The two states then concluded an alliance. After returning home, the King of Zhao appointed Lin Xiangru as supreme minister, ranking him above the great general Lian Po. Lian Po was furious. "I have fought through life and death, while he only moved his lips. How can he rank above me? If I see him, I will beat him." When Lin Xiangru heard this, he avoided him everywhere. Even when he went out and saw Lian Po's carriage, he would turn aside and take another road. His retainers felt humiliated and wanted to leave him. Lin Xiangru explained, "Even with the King of Qin so fierce, I still dared to rebuke him. Do you think I am afraid of General Lian? I only think of this. Qin does not dare attack Zhao because both General Lian and I are here. If we fight among ourselves, Qin will take advantage of the opening. I put the affairs of the state first and private grudges second." These words reached Lian Po's ears. He was filled with shame. He took off his upper garment, tied thorn branches on his back, and went to Lin Xiangru's gate to beg forgiveness. "I am a crude man. I never knew you were so broad-minded." From that day on, the two became friends who would live and die together. This is the story called Bearing Thorns to Ask Forgiveness. Later, Qin's great general Bai Qi crushed the Shu army and then laid siege to the important Han stronghold of Yangyu. The King of Zhou asked who could save it. Lian Po and Yu Cheng both said the road was too far and too dangerous and that it could not be saved. Only Zhao Shi said, "The road is narrow and steep. It is like 2 rats fighting inside a hole. The braver one will win." So the King of Zhou sent him with 50,000 troops to relieve the city. After marching only 30 li, Zhao Shi stopped and set up camp. He strictly forbade anyone from talking about military matters, and even executed an officer who suggested advancing. He then built fortifications everywhere, and deliberately acted as though he did not dare fight. He even entertained Qin's spies generously. Hu Shang, the Qin commander, was completely deceived and concentrated all his strength on besieging the city. The moment the spies left, Zhao Shi ordered the whole army into a forced march. In 2 days and 1 night, they reached the vicinity of Yanyu. He then adopted the advice of a soldier named Su Li and seized the high ground on North Mountain. When the Qin army rushed over to contest it, Zhao Shi attacked from above with a rain of arrows and utterly defeated them, lifting the siege of Yanyu. The king of Zhao then granted Zhao Shi the title Lord of Mafu. Zhao Shi had a son named Zhao Kuo. From childhood, he had read military books, and whenever he spoke of warfare, he sounded clear and convincing. Even his father could not out-argue him. His mother was delighted, but Zhao Shi was deeply troubled.
War is a matter of life and death. It must be handled with the greatest caution. Zhao Kuo treats warfare as if it were too easy. He is stubborn and overconfident. If he is ever allowed to command troops, he will surely suffer a great defeat, and Zhao will be ruined. Before Zhao Shi died, he gave his wife one special warning. Never let Zhao Kuo become a great general. But the king of Zhao remembered only Zhao Shi's past victories. He let Zhao Kuo inherit the title, without knowing that a terrible disaster was already waiting for Zhao.
In the city of Daliang, there was a man named Fan Sui. He had great ambition and dreamed of bringing peace and order to the state, but because his family was poor and no one recommended him, he had no choice but to attach himself as a retainer to Su Jia, a senior official of Wei. One time, Su Jia was sent as an envoy to the state of Qi and took Fan Sui with him. King Shang of Qi was very dissatisfied with the repeated changes in Wei's attitude. Su Jia could not answer his questions at all. At that moment, Fan Sui stepped forward. He spoke with confidence and reasoning, and his arguments completely convinced the king of Qi. In the end, the king even apologized. King Shang admired Fan Sui's talent. In private, he sent people to deliver gold and fine wine, hoping to keep him in Qi as a guest minister. Fan Sui firmly refused. "I came here together with the envoy. If I stay behind privately, that would be a betrayal of trust and loyalty." He accepted only the wine and food and returned the gold. But when Su Jia learned about this, he became suspicious. After returning to Wei, Su Jia falsely accused Fan Sui before the Prime Minister Wei Qi. He claimed that Fan Sui had secretly communicated with Qi and leaked state secrets. Wei Qi became furious. Without investigating the truth, he ordered that Fan Sui be severely beaten. Fan Sui's ribs were broken, and his teeth were knocked out. He fainted from the beating. Wei Qi believed he was dead. He ordered people to wrap the body in a reed mat and throw it into a toilet. He even allowed guests to urinate on the body to humiliate him. Late at night, Fan Sui miraculously regained consciousness. He begged the guard to let him return home so that he could die there and be buried. The guard was greedy for money and secretly carried him home. Fan Sui knew that Wei Qi would not let the matter go, so he told his family to arrange a fake funeral. He himself changed his name to Jiang Lu and hid in the house of his friend Zhang Anping while recovering from his wounds. Afterward, he concealed himself deep in the mountains. 1 year later, the Qin envoy Wang Ji came to Wei. Zhang Yanping pretended to be a station servant and took the opportunity to recommend Zhang Lu to him. Wang Ji secretly met Fan Sui at night. After hearing him analyze the situation of the world, he was astonished by his insight. So he hid Fan Sui in his carriage and secretly brought him back to Qin. When they reached Huguan Pass, they met Wei Ran, the powerful prime minister of Qin, who was inspecting the area. Fan Sui had heard that Wei Ran was jealous of talented people, so he hid inside the carriage. As expected, Wei Ran became suspicious. Although he did not find anyone, Fan Sui predicted that he would return to search again. So he got out of the carriage early and continued on foot to hide. Sure enough, Wei Ran sent soldiers back to search the carriage, but they found nothing. Wang Ji admired Fan Sui's foresight deeply. After arriving in Shanyang, Fan Sui stayed in a guest house for a full year before he finally had a chance to meet King Zhaoxiang of Qin. When the meeting came, he deliberately rushed into the Forbidden Palace and angered the king in order to test his sincerity. Only after the king dismissed everyone and knelt to ask his advice did Fan Sui speak the shocking words. In Qin, people know only the Queen Dowager and the Lord of Rang. They do not know that there is a king of Qin. He explained that Wei Ran and the others had seized power and reduced the king to an empty figure. He even warned that if they were not removed, Qin might one day no longer belong to the Ying royal family. The king of Qin was terrified when he heard this and immediately realized the danger. He dismissed Wei Ran, expelled the 4 powerful nobles, placed the Queen Dowager under house arrest, and appointed Fan Sui as prime minister, granting him the title Lord Ying. From that time on, Fan Sui's strategy of ally with distant states while attacking nearby ones became the core national policy that guided Qin toward the unification of the world. Around this time, Wei heard that Qin was preparing to attack them. In panic, they sent Su Jia to Qin to seek peace. When Fan Sui learned that his old enemy had arrived, he put on ragged clothes and pretended to be a poor servant. In this disguise, he went to meet Su Jia. Su Jia saw that Fan Sui was still alive and shivering from the cold.
He felt a moment of pity and gave him a silk robe. Fan Sui pretended that he knew the Prime Minister and offered to lead him to the Prime Minister's residence. When they reached the gate of the residence, Fan Sui told Su Jia to wait outside while he walked straight inside. Su Jia waited for a long time. Suddenly, he saw the guards respectfully addressing the same poor fellow from before as Prime Minister. Only then did Su Jia wake up as if from a dream. He was terrified and quickly removed his upper clothing, kneeling outside the gate to beg forgiveness. Fan Sui sat high in the hall and listed Su Jia's 3 great crimes: falsely accusing a loyal man, refusing to help when someone was dying, and allowing the humiliation that followed. Su Jia knocked his head on the ground again and again and admitted that he deserved death. Because of the robe Su Jia had given him earlier, Fan Sui spared his life. However, during a banquet with envoys from other states, Fan Sui made Su Jia sit below the hall and fed him roasted beans the way one feeds a horse, humiliating him completely. At the end, Fan Sui warned him, "Go back and tell the King of Wei to deliver Wei Qi's head as soon as possible. Otherwise, I will personally march to Luoyang and destroy the city." Su Jia was so frightened that he fled back to Wei overnight to report the message. After Su Jia returned to Wei, he reported Fan Sui's threat to the King of Wei in full detail. The King of Wei hesitated. Returning Fan Sui's family would be easy, but killing the Prime Minister Wei Qi was extremely difficult. When Wei Qi heard the news, he threw down his seal of office and fled overnight to the state of Zhou, seeking refuge with Lord Pingyuan, Zhao Sheng. In order to help Fan Sui take revenge, the King of Qin personally led 200,000 soldiers to attack Zhou and quickly captured 3 cities. At that time, King Huiwen of Zhou had just died. King Shaocheng was still young, and the Queen Dowager held power. She was terrified. She quickly sent Lian Po to resist Qin and also sent Lord Chang'an to Qi to ask for help. When the King of Qin saw that he could not take Zhou by force, he wrote a letter to the King of Zhou pretending to apologize. He said he only wanted to capture Wei Qi and was willing to return the cities. The King of Zhou believed him, but the King of Qin seized the opportunity to detain Lord Pingyuan, who had come to express thanks. Then he wrote another letter threatening Zhou. Wei Qi is hiding in Lord Pingyuan's house. If his head is delivered in the morning, Lord Pingyuan will be released in the evening. The King of Zhou was shocked and sent soldiers to surround Lord Pingyuan's residence. Wei Qi fled overnight to the home of Yu Qing, the Prime Minister. Yu Qing said that the King of Zhou feared Qin, so it would be better to seek refuge with Lord Xinling. The 2 men abandoned their offices and escaped to the state of Wei. When Lord Xinling heard that Wei Qi had arrived, he hesitated to welcome him because he feared Qin's revenge. A retainer named Hu Sheng reproached him. Yu Qing abandoned his seal and fled together with Wei Qi. How many men in the world would do such a thing? My lord, can you not see his virtue? Lord Xinling felt ashamed and hurried to drive out to receive them. But when Wei Qi learned that Lord Xinling had first hesitated to accept him, he was overwhelmed with sorrow and anger. He drew his sword and killed himself. Lord Xinling arrived too late and wept bitterly. At that moment, an envoy from Zhou arrived to take Wei Qi's head in exchange for Lord Pingyuan Zhao Shen. In order to help Fan Sui, could not bear it, but to save his friend, he finally cut off Wei Qi's head and gave it to the envoy. The King of Qin then presented the head to Fan Sui. Fan Sui ordered it to be lacquered into a chamber pot and said, "In the past, you forced me to drink urine. Now, even in the underworld, you will drink mine." Now let us turn to Zhou. The Crown Prince of Zhou, Zhang Yi, had been held as a hostage in Qin for 16 years. His tutor Huang Zi saw that the King of Zhou was gravely ill and feared the Crown Prince might not return home in time. So he disguised the prince as a chariot driver and helped him escape through Hanggu Pass, while Huang Zi himself remained behind to take the blame. The King of Qin wanted to kill Huang Zi, but Fan Sui advised him, "Even if you kill him, the Crown Prince will not return. It would be better to let him go. Then the ruler and ministers of Zhou will all feel grateful to Qin." The King of Qin agreed and rewarded Huang Zi generously. Later, the Crown Prince became king, known as King Kalali of Zhou, and he appointed Huang Zi as Lord Chunshen. Huang Zi gathered thousands of retainers, and the state of Zhou once again became powerful. Now Qin attacked the state of Han and cut off the road to Shandong. The governor of Shandong, Feng Ting, did not want to surrender to Qin. Instead, he offered the 17 cities of Shandong to Zhou. The king of Zhou was delighted, but Lord Pingyang, Zhao Bao, warned him. To gain profit without reason is a disaster. Han only wants to shift trouble onto Zhou. The king of Zhou did not listen. He asked Lord Pingyuan for advice. Lord Pingyuan said, "Without spending a single soldier or grain of food, we gain 17 cities. Such a great advantage must not be lost." So the king of Zhou sent Lord Pingyuan to receive the land and granted Feng Ting the title of Marquis. Qin then sent the general Wang He to attack Shandong. The king of Zhou ordered Lian Po to lead 200,000 troops to rescue it.
When Lian Po saw the strength of the Qin army, he fortified his camp and refused to fight, no matter how Qin challenged him. The two armies faced each other for 4 months, and Qin could do nothing. Fan Sui said to the king of Qin, "If Lian Po is not removed, Zhao cannot be defeated." So they sent agents with 1,000 pieces of gold to Handan to spread rumors. The Qin army fears only Zhao Kuo. Lian Po is old and cowardly and is about to surrender. The king of Zhao already disliked Lian Po's refusal to fight. When he heard the rumor, he summoned Zhao Kuo and asked if he could defeat Qin. Zhao Kuo boasted, "If the opponent were Bai Qi, I would need careful planning. But if it is Wang He, I would sweep him away like autumn wind clearing fallen leaves." The king of Zhao was delighted and appointed Zhao Kuo as commander. Zhao Kuo's mother wrote a letter to stop the appointment. Zhao Kuo only knows military books. He does not understand real change and flexibility. Before his death, his father warned that Zhao Kuo must never be made a general. But the king of Zhao would not listen. He said, "My decision has already been made." Zhao Kuo's mother also said to the king, when Zhao Kuo's father Zhao Shi was a general, he shared all rewards with his soldiers. After receiving his command, he lived in the army camp and never spoke of family matters. But Zhao Kuo, as soon as he became commander, grew arrogant. None of the officers even dare look at him. All the gold and silk he receives as rewards he sends back to his own house. How can a general behave like this? The king of Zhao still said, "My decision will not change." His mother could only say, "If the army is defeated, please do not punish our whole family." After Zhao Kuo took command, he changed all of Lian Po's orders and began attacking aggressively. Meanwhile, Qin secretly replaced Wang He with Bai Qi as commander. Bai Qi pretended to retreat and lured Zhao Kuo deeper into the field. Then he sent troops to cut off Zhao's supply lines and surrounded the Zhao army. The Zhao soldiers were trapped for 46 days. Their food was gone and no reinforcements came. The soldiers began killing each other for food. Zhao Kuo personally led elite troops in a desperate attempt to break out, but he was shot to death by a storm of Qin arrows. The Zhao army collapsed. 400,000 soldiers surrendered. Bai Qi and Wang He feared that the prisoners might rebel, so they made a plan. They buried alive all 400,000 Zhao soldiers. Only 240 young boys were released to return to Zhao and report the disaster. After the Battle of Changping, Zhao lost a total of 450,000 soldiers. From that moment on, the strength of Zhao was severely damaged. When King Xiaocheng of Zhao heard that Zhao Kuo had been killed in battle, and that 400,000 soldiers had been buried alive by Bai Qi in a single night, with only 240 young boys released to carry the news back, the whole state was shocked. Cries of grief filled the streets and markets. Sons cried for fathers, and wives cried for husbands. Only Zhao Kuo's mother did not cry. She said calmly, "I warned long ago that he was not a man fit to command an army. From the day he became general, I no longer regarded him as a living son." Because she had spoken these words earlier, the king of Zhao did not punish her. Instead, he gave her gifts to comfort her. When the Qin Prime Minister Fan Sui heard that Bai Qi wanted to continue the attack and surround Handan, he began to worry. The strategist Su Dai said to Fan Sui, "Bai Qi's achievements are already too great. If he destroys the state of Zhao as well, you will have to stand beneath him in rank. Even Yi Yin and Zhang Zia achieved no more than that. Although you are now powerful, you would still have to stand below him." Fan Sui suddenly understood the danger. He persuaded the king of Qin to accept peace from Han and Zhao in exchange for land, and ordered Bai Qi to withdraw his army. Bai Qi was so furious that he vomited blood. Zhao is now in panic.
If we pursue our victory, within 1 month Handan will fall. Fan Sui understands nothing about war and has ruined a great opportunity. From that moment, the general and the minister became enemies. Later, the king of Qin again attacked Handan and wanted Bai Qi to take command. Bai Qi said, "At that time the battle could be won. Now all of Zhou shares the same determination. The other states will surely come to rescue them. This war cannot be won." The king of Qin forced him to go, but Bai Qi pretended to be ill and refused. Fan Sui then spoke ill of him, saying Bai Qi disobeyed the king and might even defect to another state. The king of Qin became furious. He stripped Bai Qi of his title and sent him a sword, ordering him to take his own life. Bai Qi looked up to the sky and sighed deeply.
What crime have I committed against heaven? After a long silence, he said again, I deserve death. At the Battle of Changping, I buried 400,000 surrendered soldiers alive. For that crime alone, I deserve to die 10,000 times. Then he cut his own throat and died. The people of Qin pitied him and built shrines everywhere to honor his spirit. At this time, Zhou was in great danger. Lord Pingyuan, Zhao Sheng, went to the state of Chu to ask for help. He planned to select 20 retainers, but he could only find 19. A man named Mao Sui stepped forward and said, "Let me make up the number." Lord Pingyuan laughed and said, "If an awl is in a bag, its sharp point will soon appear. You have been with me for 3 years without showing any talent. It seems you have little ability." Mao Sui replied, "That is because today is the first time I have asked to be placed in the bag. If I had been placed there earlier, the whole awl would have pierced through." So Lord Pingyuan took him along to Chu. After meeting the king of Chu, they talked for a long time without reaching a result. Mao Sui then walked forward with his hand on his sword and stood before the king. "Your Majesty relies on the strength of Chu's armies, yet you do not dare fight Qin with all your strength. At this moment, within 10 steps, your Majesty's life is already in my hands." The king of Chu was so frightened that he dared not move. Mao Sui continued, "This alliance is for the benefit of Chu, not Zhao. Qin has taken your lands and once held your king captive. That is a hatred that will last for generations. Does your Majesty not wish to avenge it? Today we speak of alliance for the sake of Chu, not Zhao." The king of Chu repeatedly agreed. Mao Sui immediately ordered the blood oath tray to be brought. "You are the leader of the alliance. You must be the first to swear the oath." The king of Chu had no choice but to agree. He sent Lord Chun Shen with 80,000 troops to rescue Zhao. Wei also sent soldiers, but they were frightened by the king of Qin and stopped at Yi without advancing. Now at that time, the Qin prince Yiren was living in Zhao as a hostage. He suffered cold treatment and neglect. A wealthy merchant named Lu Buwei saw him and said, "This is a rare treasure that can be invested in." Lu Buwei asked his father, "If a man farms the land, how much profit can he make?" 10 times. And if he trades in jewels, 100 times. And if he helps place a king on the throne, then the profit is beyond measure. So Lu Buwei decided to invest in Yiren. He gave Yiren 1,000 pieces of gold to make friends and gather followers. Then he went to Xianyang and bribed the sister of Lady Huayang. "The crown prince thinks of you day and night. First return to Xianyang and comfort your parents." From that moment, Yiren began the journey back to his homeland. Lu Buwei's bold investment in a rare treasure had finally begun to pay off. But now a new question began to appear. Facing such a young ruler whose background was mysterious, whose character was determined, and whose hands held the power of life and death, could Lu Buwei truly remain at ease in his heart? When Zhao Zheng gradually took real power and revealed his iron methods, how would he treat the man who was both his honored father and possibly his real father? If the truth about his birth, carefully hidden for so many years, were ever exposed, what kind of storm would it bring? Would Lu Buwei's daring investment make him rich beyond measure and famous in history, or would it lead to the destruction of his entire family and the loss of everything he had built? We will continue this story in the next episode.
Sky in light, Nua healed the broken heart. Fuxi traced the world's design. Every age leaves stories bright. ancient end. Every age leaves stories bright, history and myth ignite in endless light. China's history moves in mystery through the night. Footsteps of this land enchant the world in light. Kingdoms dynasty turn war to tales. Qin dynasty led ink and mountains bloom. Sui dynasty carved the Grand Canal. Tang dynasty crowned the world with art. Song dynasty raised learn